Hey everyone, Psycho here, and welcome to another episode of Pointy Chins, where I take you through my art journey. Alright, so here I'm really still struggling with form and trying to make sense of the forms, and as I mentioned in the prior episode, I'm breaking things down into more boxy shapes rather than cylindrical shapes. So with the arm, for instance, like, I don't think this is that great, or this one either, but thinking in terms of like, okay, so this is more one plane, even though this is rounder, and then this is another. And I think it does help to think that way, but it is more difficult, especially if you're not used to doing that. Another thing is this part of the abdomen, how flat it can get. Sure, it can get rounded as well, but it can also be very flat if the person is fit, and that's important. I like this gesture. That's nice. Nice energy. But otherwise, pretty standard stuff, I guess. And with this one, I was experimenting more with a character from Affinity, giving him this kind of, collar thing, and thought that was interesting. When I draw circles here, it's usually because I want to move my arm and get used to making movements. Before I start a page, what I tend to do is not circles, but I just move my arm randomly as if I'm making scribbles, but in the air. And all I'm doing is getting blood into the muscle so that it's warmed up so that I can actually draw. A lot of these circles after show the state, so probably wasn't very happy this day, which is why some of them look kind of miserable. Some of these shapes are okay. Like this guy seems pretty interesting. I kind of like this with, it reminds me of Guile from Street Fighter, but that type of just very angular hair shape. So here I'm just experimenting more with the character from Affinity, Xeon, with, just collars and things. And here's one I like with two of my characters. So here's Xeon from Affinity, and here's Kay from Space Waitress K. So that was kind of nice. So here I was thinking more about getting detail, because detail is something I avoid because I don't like it necessarily, but it's also something that I feel, I guess people in general, a lot of people do like detail, so sometimes I try and add it, but because I don't really like it, it's hard to keep practicing and seems pretty bad. Like this one I would say is quite terrible. But this one is just pretty terrible, I suppose. I don't know. What I think about, though, is not really objects, and maybe I should think about objects more, but it's just negative shape and negative and positive spaces, and making sure there's an interesting distribution of these. So like making sure the detail is not everywhere. It's sort of clustered in certain areas. And then you have bigger areas of space for breathing room. Here I did a study of N-Shark because I think he has a good balance of simple and detailed. I think it looks really cool. So yeah, that's a study of that. And then I tried to just do something similar, but from imagination. So this one, for instance, is from imagination, just trying to get the feeling of details and stuff. Like all the rest are that. I'm not sure if I jumped too soon from the reference to imagination, but in general, that's what I like to do. If I draw from reference, I'll immediately try to draw something not from reference, but with whatever I was trying to learn, so that I'll hopefully transfer over that knowledge. Because if I don't do that, I find I get way too much into just copying and not really remembering anything that I've learned. And I think after this one, it got a bit better, but I don't really remember much now of what I did then. So I guess it wasn't that great. Like, I feel like I probably would need to practice a lot more than that to have it stick. Here's some guy with a tail. That's interesting. I mean, it's not really interesting. It's just interesting that I don't really draw characters like that. So here, I started with trying to think of a sheet that is, I guess, blowing in the wind and how that would look. Most of it was just, okay, here's a straight line, here's a straight line, then here's a straight line, here's a squiggle line, and then connect them. And then the squiggle moves up, and then connect it back. The squiggle moves like that, and then connect it. And this one, I think, is the worst of them. Then sort of like the squiggle moves like that, and like that. But the important thing is to try at least to make sure that the distance from here to here is the same as from here to here. So even though the squiggle moves up, it's still got the same length as from here to here, roughly. And then I was thinking of boxes for the rib cage, boxes for the pelvis, and making those quite skinny because I prefer a very skinny proportion. And seeing how does that look. So much of it is really putting down something and then looking at it and like, okay, what is that? What's that like? How does that make me feel? Or how does that look? Or is that working? Is that the effect I want? And then do something else. Or like, if the answer is no, try something else. If the answer is yes, run with it. So, okay, here. Let's see, more faces. I like this character. That's kind of nice. I like these characters that are bigger a lot because I don't see them much. And what I try to do when I draw characters and faces is get a lot of different types of expressions and characteristics and proportions and things like that. So, for instance, this one is this one's like bigger, so then this one's skinnier, and this one has sort of heavy upper lids. This one has pretty much no eyelid showing. And then this one has a very small mouth, and then this one has a very big mouth. This nose is pushed very close to the eyes. This one's sort of like that, but it's more volumetric, and this one is a bit longer. This one's mouth is open, these two, the mouth is closed. Just pretty much anything I can change, I will, just to test it. Like, oh, how does that look? What if I do this? What if I do this? So I think these two are supposed to be the same character, just one in the front, or front three-quarter side. But that's how I get a lot of, I guess, different personalities when people say, well, how do you create unique characters? I think so much can be done just by yourself, by drawing something and then drawing another thing beside it, but changing things. Like, oh, well, what if this? What if that? And if you're not sure what, features to look at or to change, I think you just need to look around you, because if you go outside and see people, they're all different types. I imagine people are going to have different eye shapes and different eyebrows and different noses and different ears and different jaw lines and things. So just observe and then try and put that into your work. Here I'm thinking about posing, like getting a posture. This one, obviously it wasn't working. I hate how with pen you can't really erase, but yeah, that's something. And then this one's a bit better. More like what I was going for, sort of a heavy-set person leaning their head forward. Still working on posing. Different faces again. Yeah, they're not too happy. This guy's sort of a generic person from town, I guess. Just baseball hat and mustache and stuff. A lot of the faces I see around are that. There's a character with just hair framing the face, but really what it was is try and get the nose down, and then I use a hair to sort of block out the silhouette so I can see that better. And I'm experimenting with how small I can make noses. Like, see, this one's the opposite. How big, and what does that do to the shape? But even though it's big, it's not that big in terms of how much it protrudes, because the features are all pretty small. Like that mouth is quite tiny. So by comparison, when you make the mouth really small, the nose is gonna, or anything, if you make these, like, okay, so the mouth is super tiny, so the eye looks bigger, but then the nose is bigger, so then the eye looks a bit smaller. So it's like small, medium, large, I guess. That's a pretty nice face. And that's some good energy here. I mean, kind of pointless pose, but it's something. And here, what I was thinking is, what if I draw animals? Every once in a while I'll do this. I'll think about, what haven't I done in a while? And then try and do that. Here I was trying to draw a character first, and I guess I drew this arm and it looked wrong, so I tried to correct it, make it more in perspective. So I tried to draw a horse. And then I tried to draw a cat from imagination, and I realized that looks nothing like a cat. And it occurred to me that, well, I don't know anything about how cats actually work with a human. I can do, this head is way too far in the body, but I can do a human face sort of decently because I understand the skull of the human. So I wanted to understand a cat's skull, so I started drawing from reference some cat skulls, and I noticed how long they are. They're really stretched, which I think is quite cool. But then very narrow in the front, so really wide in side view, really thin in front view, except for the eye sockets, which are humongous. And then here, if you just keep the skin on, you get like the Sphinx cat type look, which is quite creepy in some ways. But then once you add fur, it quickly becomes a lot more normal. And I'm not by any means an expert in cats at all. So, I've barely drawn them, but it's just some minor observations. Again, some more cats from imagination, just trying to get that thing down so I can, remember it. And then I noticed, if I just stick to this basic pentagon shape and then put 2 ears, it kind of looks like a cat. So if I want to simplify, I can kind of remember that shape, and it should be okay in a pinch. If I want to draw a cat from imagination, maybe something like that. More characters. Again, trying to add detail. Where can I put detail? How can I put shapes? Even with this guy, sideburns, I guess. I'm just trying to think of them as a shape and a design instead of just a thing that's there. It's not just hair, it's a designed shape. And here it's some more action-y thing. I didn't start with action. I often don't start with action. I'll start with a static pose just to remind myself of basic proportions or the proportions I'm going for. And then I'll try and put them in movement action. A lot of these are just sometimes it's a day where it's like, I know I'm supposed to draw. I don't really know what to draw. I may not even feel like drawing, but it's just, okay, let's draw something. Just keep it going. The worst thing for me would be to ever miss a day, because that would encourage me to not continue. I'd get out of my habit, and that would be bad. So here I was playing around with different markers. I think I had a colored pencil as well that was pink. And so I had marker, I had a pink pen, I had this sort of magenta, I think it was a Copic marker. I had a water brush, and I guess here I also used a black pen, or maybe it's blue or purple or something. Yeah, it looks like purple. And I was just experimenting with different looks. Like, oh, what if I start with the Copic first, the marker, and then I draw with a pink pen on top. Or maybe it was red there. And then, yeah, I think this one was red and this one was pink. Just a pink pen. Seeing the different effects I can get. And there are some that look okay. For instance, I think these have a nice look, especially this one. Like it has a very soft look for using pen. It feels a bit more like pencil, and I like that. But I found that in terms of what worked for me, I felt this worked better, actually. And that was just starting with pen, this purple pen, and then just using color with the water brush. And I suppose that's something where you have to learn not necessarily what looks good, because that's part of it. Does this look good? Does this work? But really, what works for you? And I think what experience gives you, just like lots and lots of years drawing, is that you start to develop a sense of what feels right and what feels wrong. I think in the beginning I wouldn't really be able to tell. I'd probably be like, well, this looks okay. Everything sort of feels hard, so I don't know. I don't know what to pick. And I think the more you stick with something and develop, and I think you could even get a ton of mileage in a short time just by experimenting a lot and not necessarily drawing. Because if you consider how long it takes to draw something like a face, how much longer that is to just make a bunch of, then if you just made a bunch of scribbles and marks and things. So if anyone's trying out a new medium, what I suggest is always to take a blank page and just put down marks in it and try things, because that way you get a lot more experience in a lot shorter time. So here, I really hate this one. This one, I don't mind this thing that much. Again, nonsense detail. And then with these, and this one actually took it to a more painted stage and posted that on my DeviantArt. So here I kind of put them on top so you can see like where it comes from and where it goes. It's actually a pretty quick technique. So first I just have this sketch, I scan that in, and then I block it in pretty much grayscale, and then I smudge things and paint a bit, and then bring it into color. You can see here in the final the breasts got cut off. I like this thing though, with experimenting with body types and putting them together. Just feels interesting to me. So here's more drawings. This whatever. I like this though. Like this is something I really like. I suppose with these three, I like these interactions between faces where like, okay, this guy's got a face and then this person's got a face, but it's sort of her expression changes the meaning of his expression. See, by himself, maybe he's just like, I don't know, annoyed or not even annoyed, just neutral. Oh, I'm serious. But then with her looking this way, she's like, ooh, got some thought going on. And then he seems annoyed by what she's doing. And then this one is sort of like snooping in on what's going on. Like, what's that? Yeah, I really like that. And with this one, I thought it was kind of interesting with the hair. So I thought, okay, I'll take that one further. And this, I really wanted to just jut out that bottom lip and see what it does for the silhouette. See how, and I stretch it. So you got this big swoop, and then it goes down, and it comes out very horizontally, and then it goes down, and then it goes out horizontally again. So you get these repeating shapes. Yeah, I don't know. I get a kick out of it, but maybe others wouldn't. And there's her all painted up. But I didn't really like the monochrome feeling of this, so it's not particularly my favorite. So here's some more. Just wanted to give very small eyes, spaced very far apart, and a small nose, but then this very big, long mouth. With this one, clearly, the head, just the hair is very one shape. It's big. Again, thinking about clothing a bit more. And then these two, this one and this one, I just wanted to make some like kinder, I suppose this one too, just more kind people who look a bit happier. Because I guess I don't draw that enough. So I ended up doing these three and like more detail. So took them further. That's good. I don't know. I'm seeing more and more how even though I worked really hard on developing technical skills, sometimes just doing stupid faces like this brings more life or joy or whatever it is into life than trying to be like this one I failed really, really hard on, but it's trying to be all technical and do a difficult pose. And it's like, who cares? Whereas this one, it is pretty funny. And these two I really like because they feel like, I don't know, they just feel like two friends in high school who are not that nice as people, but they've got a lot of character because of that. I don't think I've seen people, I don't think I've seen people who look like that necessarily, but I do feel like I've seen a lot of people who feel like that, who, have this type of feeling. So painted them out. I wanted it to be really drab and dark because that's kind of how I feel looking at this. It's just, they're not that nice. So as people, as personalities. So here I'm just trying to do some posing. I think what I did is I just put down marks with the marker first, and then I went over and tried to draw lines on top and, find shapes and things. Yeah, more experimentation with different types of hair. I'm using this water brush with ink. It's sort of a pinky type magenta ink that I just put in the water brush with water, and then it's good. I think I use a Pentel water brush. So here, I really wanted to push shapes. Like just whoosh, I don't know. I wanted to create this sense of movement within the character. And so it was just, if you look at this one, for instance, you'll see there's like this direction going towards the nose, or maybe this point, like everything is pulled to one point. And same with this, see? there's like a point here, almost like the way you do perspective lines and you have a vanishing point and then everything comes out of that. There's this movement rhythm point. I don't know what to call it. I suppose rhythm point is as good as any. And here it's sort of, see, everything's sort of moving towards a point. Like it goes up and then it goes back here. And I found that creates a lot of movement, a lot of motion. It's pretty cool. I drew one of these first and then the second one, just trying out different types of simplicity and what can you do with hair just to make it very, very simple. Worked on this figure some more. So yeah, it's like that, and started like that. So you see it's not much different from the starting point. And in total, I guess it takes maybe an hour or maybe a bit more to do one of these to bring them into a more finished state. But it can be a bit faster as well. Here I'm still experimenting with how much space to leave around things. This is something that I really like, is a lot of negative space and then have all the things clumped together. But yeah, trying to think in terms of that. Here's a guy inspired by Bob Meatbag's Clowns. Just pushing faces a lot. Like, this creates a tangent with the nose to the eyebrows, so that's not very good. But just this upturned nose and how upturned can you make it? These types of faces. I find them very, very funny. This guy, again, I had this idea that his mustache comes out and then it goes all the way around and acts like eyebrows. So if he was animated and he was very angry, then the eyebrows would go down like that, but it would still be connected to the mustache. Or if he was surprised, the eyebrows would go up, but it would still be really the mustache is going up. I liked him so much that I painted him. I guess it's not that good of an idea, but I just find it kind of funny. Here I really wanted to get a sense of an attack, like tension. I don't know if I got it much or well, but that was the idea of really wanting, again, force and movement. This one, again, was that sort of everything's following a directional line, or direction of force. And then I thought, okay, I'll just do some thumbnails, because I haven't done that in a while. I'm trying to work on composition, or at least just not forget it. Sometimes that's all it is. It's just I'll do composition, so I still remember that that's a thing to keep an eye on, or keep sharp. I don't know how to say it. So yeah, just different compositions. I think this one's okay. At least it stands out to me. I like the simplicity in these two. Feels like something that could be in those old magazine ads where you'd have like text here and then person. Yeah, that one's nice. And again, more stuff. I found if I do these very convex shapes, like these bubbly shapes, it's easier for me to draw forms in general. So I've started doing this a lot, even though I know that originally I was gearing towards concave everything. It's very hard to build forms off that, because I think the brain just doesn't see the world that way, and then it can't visualize it. And I have a lot of trouble with visualizing, so if I can at least feel something out, that will help me. But if I can't feel it and I can't visualize, then I'm really in trouble. And when I use concave shapes, a lot of it is sort of a mental exercise, trying to think of something that's interesting, but not quite being able to utilize my intuition. It just doesn't kick in. So relying on convex shapes helps more. See here how there's like these big shapes and then these smaller shapes. Yeah, I think that's good. Here, for whatever reason, I decided I would draw a chair. Just make it tall and make it weird. This guy is... my wife got me into watching this show called Versailles, where it's about Versailles, and there's the king's brother, and this kind of is what he feels like to me. I kind of like this person. I like the proportions, the energy of it, and it's quite good. So with these, I started with this initial light line, and you can see that, and then try and nail down some more solid forms. But I think it's fine to, and here, even with this one, see the arm was here first and then it was down here. I think it's fine to be more scribbly and then to use the second pass, not to trace over lines, but to correct them in a way. And to use the initial thing more to get a sense of the general proportions, like, and the placement, like the person goes around here, they're about this tall, they're taking kind of this pose. And then in the next part to really, okay, the person is exactly here, they look like this. And that makes it more interesting. I think what is not necessarily good is to trace over your lines, like to draw something and then erase it until it looks good and then just ink over that and trace over the lines you've already put down. I think that leads to a very stiff type of finish. So here I was drawing this more, I don't know, bigger volumetric balloony shapes, you can see. And then here I did the opposite. And I saw this video that was of this person that was very anorexic, and it was quite disturbing. But at first I thought, okay, this is hard to watch, but maybe I could learn something. So I did these studies of the different poses. And it's like you get a sense of the skeleton and the muscles, but also the figure in motion. Because usually if you just see skeletons, they're not in correct positions. And you don't get to see, how does a rib cage actually work? Where are the bones? How's the pelvis going out? See, like in this part, how the pelvis really juts out here. You can see the shape of it. And here in the front view, this bony part is apparent here and here and here and here. But normally you wouldn't see that because that would all be covered by fat and muscle. But it was a really difficult exercise, and eventually I just couldn't do it anymore. So it sucks sometimes how there are things that are very disturbing in the world that are helpful. I guess when I first discovered that was when I heard about how I think Michelangelo would go into study corpses and things, and it seemed to me at a young age very grotesque and disgusting, but I can see how sometimes you have to do unpleasant things to get knowledge. Here, still making random nonsense shapes, but building on top of things. And this guy seems to have a relationship with this thing. Yeah, so these two I fleshed out. I quite like this one. This one, I don't know, but flesh them out. What to do? I wonder if it helps to see it in this phase where you still can see the lines and you can see what I saved. A lot of this is taking something like this and then focusing on creating a silhouette that is very clean. So here the silhouette gets cleaned out. And then by this point, see, it's very clean on the outside, but it's still quite messy inside. This one, I cleaned it up a bit more. So there's less of the lines, but in this one, you still can see almost all the lines showing through of the original sketch. But because the outside is so clean from far, it doesn't really look like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of lines and it's super messy. That's something to keep in mind here. I wanted to draw a guy lifting a box, and I don't think I succeeded. I think this one's the weakest of them. Seems very off balance and just not good. This character, I don't know why he makes me laugh. And then trying to put muscles on my people. I feel like this is something I've been struggling with a lot, which is having anatomy and wanting to go very muscular in a way, but also keep it within this cartoony style, because I can do the heads okay in a certain style. I mean, here you can see, but then attaching those to a body is something that I'm still at this point struggling with. And then these two got finished up. So I used a much lighter palette on them. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of nice to see them more fleshed out. Another page of faces, and only a few got selected to be fleshed out more. So yeah, I'm not particularly happy with how these ones turned out per se, because of it just feels too contrasty when I look at it. I think I even prefer it at this stage. Not that, I mean, this isn't exactly how it's done. It's not like I just paint over these. What I do is I scan them and then I extract them. And I think I moved her somewhere. Or maybe I didn't. Probably did. But anyway. And then paint. But I like how the sketch still shows through in this intermediary stage. And then just drawing more fat people. Playing around a lot with shape. See this guy. All his features are pretty much in this little area, and then very far there's the ear, and then you got this gigantic head shape. So it's things that like this I find very interesting. Same with this, how it's very narrow, and then you've got this big boop shape, and then it's super narrow, and then kind of like a teardrop, if you think of the body as one big teardrop shape. This guy's all puffed up. He's not that fat. But this guy is. I like the face on his shirt. Yeah, just going super round here. This one, I think I did this one first. And then I wanted to push it to crazy proportions, so I did this. I made this huge, well, it looks huge. I mean, clearly it's really small on the page, but this shape, and then just the tiniest head right at the end of that. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so there's going to be a lot more experimentation next month. I hope you'll stick around, and I hope this helped, and thanks for watching.